Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Lance, good to see you back in the saddle. How you feeling, my friend?
I am, from a health perspective, symptom-free. From an energy perspective, Bob, I feel like I ran a marathon yesterday. So
okay, well, if you doze off, Katie and I'll cover you if you start dozing off. Katie, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
All right, let's rock and roll. You know, everyone knows about the certificates. Download those, save those, produce those when questioned. Number one, what percentage of business acquisition loans have owner financing on standby as part of their equity injection?
And of course, this is a great business acquisition loans are certainly a great opportunity, Bob. And hitting that equity injection, the SOP allows us to use seller financing on full standby. I've not ever seen the exact statistic, Bob, but I am in agreement with the group at 46%. I think it's somewhere between 30 and 40% of them.
Lance, there are no statistics for this, so that's why it's interesting results. Yeah, I would agree. I would think it's probably a little bit closer to the 50% than 33%, but we put that out there to let you know that it is prevalent and it is used. And Lance, it can be with a standby, you can be down to what, 5% cash by
that's exactly right, Bob. The owner financing on full standby that can be counted as equity can be equal to the cash injection from the borrower, but not greater than.
We didn't do our trick. We didn't do our trick question. It was, does SBA consider standby low equity or debt? They actually consider it debt. They said it's a debt and needs to be repaid. Yeah, we know it's going to be subordinate to us, but eventually, the point was, don't fool yourself. It's not true equity. It's not true equity. Anyway.
Well, and other types of financing on full standby could count as equity as well, Bob. Let's say you and I were doing a project together in this business acquisition, and you gave me a loan and was on full standby for the term of the SBA loan. That could count as well.
Can you use SBA loan proceeds to acquire land for a future development? And here we're talking a future warehouse or a future hotel or a restaurant pad. Can we do that? Lance?
This is a tricky one. The answer is yes, you can, but it has to be a real short term. It can't be perceived as investment property. Typically, if you acquire land for a future development, that development project needs to be in the full-blown planning phase and implemented within a 12-month period of time. You cannot acquire land that's going to be developed 2, 3, 4 years down the road.
Would you even consider it, Lance? What would Lance do?
You know, an example, Bob, is let's say somebody's acquiring a building that has a piece of land parallel to it, and they're considering building a new warehouse or new showroom space in the next 12 months on that piece of property. That absolutely is something that would be okay. I'm Bob, I probably would not do a standalone SBA loan on a piece of land that didn't already have something. You know, the kind that I look at, Bob, is if there's a project here and right beside it is a piece of land that might be developed in the very near future, I might do that. But I'm not going to just do a raw piece of land for future development typically.
Yeah, I agree, because if it goes past the 12 months and then there's a default, SBA wants to know why you're doing that. So
yeah,
the technical answer is no, you can't. Yes, you can if it's within a short period of time. I think we're raising red flags. I think this is a GP processed loan, Lance.
Well, any SBA loan proceeds cannot be used on what would be considered something that's speculative. And
benefit of the business. Absolutely. And that doesn't benefit the business. Number 3, what percentage of first draw loans have been forgiven? Katie, I'll let you chime in here. I think you have some stats for us once our attendees vote. How'd they do, Katie?
Yeah, I think everybody's just about right on this one. I think I was just doing the math here, and it seems to me the most recent data we got was yesterday, and it seems like we're about at 54% for first draw. It's a little smaller if you're going to consider first and second draw. That's closer to the 26% of the loans. But some of those second draw are still in the process of being distributed and things like that. And then there are people who just received PPP loans who haven't used up their funds yet. So those, of course, are going to be adding to that number.
And Lance, you're going to be doing a webinar on Wednesday, May 19th, and you're going to be talking about different scenarios. I mean, the two big scenarios. What happens if SB disapproves, turns down the forgiveness, or the borrower never submits the paperwork?
Yeah, both are possibilities, and both would result in an SBA loan that requires servicing.
And loan payments, et cetera, et cetera. What's going on with PPP? First, the big question, what's our date that we think the spigot will be turned off, Katie?
Yeah, it is starting to look a little bit tighter. I think we're getting pretty, if we haven't reached it, we're definitely getting pretty close to 90%.
This sounds like election return night. I love it. Yeah, the votes are getting tighter. Too close to declare a winner. Go ahead, Katie.
Yeah, no, we are getting, if we haven't passed it already, we are getting close to that 90% of the funds being used up at this point. So it's not a whole lot left, but there is still some funding left. And of course, they've kind of set aside the amount that they're still waiting to review and things like that. But we're just kind of waiting to see. I would expect maybe another, maybe 2 weeks or so. I don't think we're going to reach the end of May.
So we have forgiven, we have like 227 billion forgiven, if I can read my commas right.
Yeah, that's correct.
I mean, billion with the B, 80 billion under review, and not forgiven 700 million. Well, we're going to have to deal with that $700 million, Lance.
Yeah.
Katie, what's going on with shuttered venues?
Yeah, so the shuttered venue grant application should be open now. It was supposed to open at noon today Eastern. I actually haven't checked since that's supposed to open, but it is, I don't know what happened over the weekend. They were talking about opening it on Saturday, and that for whatever reason did not happen. So it's now supposed to be open today. If borrowers are interested in participating in that, they can, of course, go ahead and register for the portal, go ahead and go through SBA's checklist on their website and make sure they have all the things they need to complete the application, and go ahead and apply as soon as that's open. It should be open now.
And as our friends in Texas told us, you need a SAMS clearance to submit the loans, and you need a DUNS number, which takes, I believe it costs, there's no cost to that, but it takes time, Lance, correct?
That's absolutely correct, Bob. And for those who may be applying, they need to be getting the SAMS clearance and the DUNS number now.
You can do that now, yeah. And restaurant revitalization, Katie, those two items are not required, correct?
Correct. That's the unique aspect of restaurant revitalization program, is they're not going to be needing SAMs or DUNS. That one's going to be a little bit easier to apply for, but it's very specific businesses that can receive those grants. And as of right now, the program is not open, but it does sound like it'll probably be open, at least to an extent, in about 2 weeks. After that, it should open up to a wider pool, but they are currently just testing the program with a few PPP applicants who were eligible for it. After a 2-week period, they'll open it up to minorities and groups that, such as women-owned businesses and veterans, and then open it up to the wider pool after that.
Katie, I haven't followed EIDL too much. It's not doesn't affect the lender directly. We do have to deal with it in our cash flow analysis, and we need to know if there's what's happening with that. but SBA keeps on tweaking it. What's going on now?
Yeah, so like you said, it's not on the lender side, but it is something that lenders should be aware of when they're doing underwriting and things like that. The EIDL advance originally was a $10,000 grant that you would receive with an EIDL loan. That grant essentially has been used up by the majority of borrowers, the majority of people who applied. And what they've done is they've launched this supplemental targeted advance, which is an extra $5,000 for specific groups. This is going to be low-income community that suffered 50% or more economic loss and have fewer than 10 employees. So it's a very specific group that's going to be eligible for this, but they will receive up to $5,000.
Katie, how do I know if my business is in that footprint? Is there a website? Obviously, I can count my employees, but I don't know if I'm in the right footprint.
Yeah, you can look up that footprint that is available on several sites. I believe the SBA even has a link on their site. The SBA did say they're going to be reaching out to these people who are eligible, but in the past there has been problems with that. So you could take some initiative and go ahead and check if you're eligible on your end first. And they definitely will be probably running out of money in this program eventually. So it would be a good idea to jump on that quickly. But if they go online and find if they're in one of those communities, the thing is the SBA will probably reach out to them.
Katie, what's going on in Rhode Island, and why does that affect me in California?
Yeah, so Rhode Island governor is saying that they intend to tax PPP loans over $150,000. This is somewhat unique in that a lot of states played with the idea last year and then decided ultimately not to tax it. This year, though, it does look like there's some motivation here to do that. And in fact, if Rhode Island does do this, other states could jump on the bandwagon. Now, I don't have the list. I don't have the list in front of me, but there are certain states that could do this and certain states that could not do this based on how their tax code is written. But the concern there is that they could potentially make this number whatever they want it to be. In this case, it's over 150, which luckily is not as too significant of a number of the borrowers in Rhode Island, but it is a concern for those people who didn't believe they were going to have this and weren't prepared for it. If they did get a loan even just slightly above that, they're going to have to pay taxes on that, which is concerning.
I'm one of those 2,200 Lance. I'm not happy.
No, not at all, Bob, because it's not just Katie made the key comment. They didn't plan for it. They didn't anticipate it happening, and suddenly they're going to have, somebody with $151,000 PPP loans probably going to have a $20,000 state tax liability that they didn't plan for. They didn't think
and they could have gotten a $145,000 loan and not have a loan.
Oh, yeah. How many people, if they had known this in advance, Bob, would have said, no, I don't want 160. I'll take 140.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, we're obviously following this very closely. The income that the state expects to receive off this, I don't think we have it on the charts, $113 million spread over 2 years. And for a state of Rhode Island can get that, you can imagine what some of these other states are looking at. Obviously, it's going to keep the attorney fees high and keep the attorneys busy as well. So support your local attorney. We have a question on the answer desk, which is, I don't have it verbatim, but basically is, hey, Lance, what do I do? The borrower has passed. Do I go ahead and basically what do I do specifically? They're talking about, do I go after the wife in the business?
Oh, on a regular 7A loan, a lot of it depends if...
I'm talking PPP, Lance. I'm talking PPP.
Oh, PPP loan? Well, there's no personal guarantees.
Okay.
So you can't go after the borrower or you can't go after the spouse. There's not a personal guarantee.
But it's okay, but let me play devil's advocate, but it's to the business. And if the spouse is running the business, does this business still have?
You can go after the business entity.
Right.
Now, this is a really interesting question, Bob, because all of these sole proprietor Schedule C loans where there's not a business entity, but there's still not a personal guarantee. I mean, I think you could go after the business entity for payment, but you can't go after the spouse.
Define go after.
This is going to be a real interesting path that we go down, Bob, in terms of servicing, with no personal guarantees. I could see financial institutions having to take individuals to court to secure a judgment on a business entity for the PPP loan if it does not get repaid.
Okay. But it's obviously it's something that a decision needs to be made whether we're going to go ahead and charge it off.
The first thing is what happened with their forgiveness application. Was
Right.
their forgiveness application declined? If not, even though the original borrower has passed or the individual, doesn't mean the entity still cannot apply for forgiveness.
Very good.
But Bob, it's going to be a very interesting couple years dealing with the leftover PPP loans that do not get forgiven, and there's no personal guarantee on these loans, so collection on these is going to be pretty interesting.
And that's what you're going to be talking about on Wednesday, May 19th. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about 11-12 payments that have expired. We're going to talk about deferments, servicing, or the whole toolbox on that. Lance, you're documenting 13 common mistakes, equity injection. You're going to be doing that next week.
Equity injection is still, it never lessened in importance because of PPP. Equity injection is still a very important part of properly underwriting your SBA loan. We want to make sure you do it the right way.
And then we're going to go over all collateral requirements with all the COVID added guidance in following weeks. And you can see we're going to dust off restaurant. And on the shelf is SBA 504 refi. As soon as they announce it, we'll announce our webinar 2 or 3 days later. So that's where we are on that. Well, very good. Lance, good to see you again. Oh, shout out to Russell. He said there's a website for geocodes, basically. It's a website for geocodes, FFIEC. So I thank you, Russell. I'm not going to read this off. Here, I'll give you a glance. But it's out there and it's easy to use. So thank you very much. Well, very good. Well, thank you all for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.